Who is right, Jeff Berlin or Victor Wooten? If you're wondering what they are right about, it's about bass education. Two very different schools of thought. On one hand, you have someone who is classically trained, who was at Berklee during its heyday, studied with the likes of Charlie Banakas, played alongside guys like Jaco Pastorius, Marcus Miller, is in his three-piece bass band with Stuart Ham, the legend, Billy Sheen, the GOAT. His accolades go on, and his playing speaks for itself. There's not much that Jeff Berlin can't do on the bass guitar, and he's the musician's musician. He's written great pieces like Joe Frazier 1, 2, and 3. His arrangement of Tears in Heaven is pretty awesome. The possible problem that we have here is that Jeff is very vocal about institutions teaching non-musical concepts. And when I say that, he wants specific musical concepts, as in reading notation, pitches, chord tones, very specific exercises that limit you to a point where you have to learn specific pieces of musical information. Now, this is a huge contrast to what is in the lessons of Victor Wooten. Now let's look at Victor Wooten, the amazing bass player from Bella Fleck, the author of The Lesson. He created Groove Workshop, which is an excellent DVD. He's written amazing pieces for bass like Sinister Minister, Sex in a Pan, You Can't Hold No Groove. To many of us, including myself, he is a guru. Victor Wooten completely changed the way that we play the bass with tunes like Classical Thump. He made the impossible possible, created the Wooten bass camps, and truly enlightened us all on so many concepts. He taught us a new way to learn music as a language, which just happens to be the polar opposite of what Jeff Berlin believes. He believes that to learn the language, you need to learn it like we do in school. Whereas Victor Wooten demonstrates and believes that we need to learn the language the way that we learn how to talk as a child. Now, I believe they both have legitimate points, and I'm extremely grateful that both of them are around to share their wisdom with us. What I'm going to do in this video today, though, is take a couple of specific ideas that each of them have shared. I'm going to display how they've disagreed. I'll also offer my opinions on what I think is a great middle ground. There is so much to learn from both of these legends, and they are so similar in so many ways. As I stated before previously, that Jeff was a part of the three-piece bass band with the amazing Billy Sheen and Stuart Ham. Well, we've also got Victor Wooten playing with the absolute OG Stanley Clarke and Marcus Miller, arguably one of the greatest bass players of all time. They're both part of Berklee. Obviously, Jeff Berlin is no longer part of Berklee, but he did study there. They're both amazing virtuosos. They've played together. Victor has visited the Players School of Music when Jeff Berlin was the head of it. Jeff has written open letters publicly to Berklee and to Victor Wooten, and Victor Wooten has responded. But as far as I know, Victor is no longer responding and does not want to be a part of this controversy and just wants to offer his own lessons. One thing I will say for Jeff Berlin, though, is he's not just all talk and detracting. He actually does offer amazing musical content. I myself have been studying his work for years, his chord tone book. I recently bought package 2, 3, and 4 about maybe 4 months ago, and every day I've been reading his dots, and every day I am getting better. But also, the philosophies taught by Victor Wooten, he allows you to be self-taught. He allows your imagination to expand. He's more than just a musician. He's a philosophical guru that has a childlike approach in a deliberate way that can open your mind so you can always play music with an open heart. And that is so important. Jeff, on the other hand, will give you specific musical content that will make you such a better musician. The two philosophies combined are unstoppable. Now let's take a look at a recent example where Victor Wooten has offered a free bass lesson on his Bass Vault page on Facebook.
Today I'd like to talk about looping pedals and an alternate way of using it, a way that will help bring musicality out of you. So yes, you may have seen me play chords like Stevie Wonder's beautiful song, Isn't She Lovely? And then I played a melody over the top. That's really nice if done well. But that's actually pretty easy because the chords are carrying me along and I, just played a melody on top. But my goal is to make music out of this. And if I can do it, that means I'm musical. So this is really one of my number one practicing tools, not only for musical and melodic work, but for rhythm and time. Because this is like a musical metronome. But it doesn't dictate a key nor a time signature. There's a pitch, yes, a G, and there's a tempo. But it doesn't mean the time signature has to be there. So one of the things that I'll do a lot is I'll close my eyes and just play a note and see where that note takes me. I listen to that note in relation to that.
So as you can see in his lesson, he's offered you an insight to how he uses a looping pedal to practice. He mentions such concepts as there being no specific time signature until we use articulation, that the pitch G isn't going to determine the key signature. He talks about the chromatic scale and being comfortable with all the 12 notes. But now what he is doing is giving you an open platform to discover musical ideas on your own. I really enjoyed this lesson. I actually posted it on my Facebook page, Mark Marks and Space channel. But Jeff Berlin, on the other hand, he had a few criticisms. Now, on his Facebook channel, he wrote this: Victor Wooten posted a video about looping a G and trying ideas over it. In my opinion, the lesson is flawed, as it comes without lesson principles to practice or play. Lessons and playing suggestions come with formulas to follow. Example, playing on a G7 scale using eighth notes is a lesson formula. To give some lesson meaning to the looping lesson, I offered the Banacos double mambos that I posted here a few days ago, but suggested doing them in G. So before we go on, let's look at a few things. First of all, Jeff Berlin is stating that the lesson is not specific enough with musical content. Okay, he's saying, okay, playing a G7 scale using eighth notes is a lesson formula. Jeff Berlin creates lessons where you are limited in your musical content so that you will have a musical goal, and when you complete the lesson, you will have a musical skill when you're finished. Now, that is a very specific set of rules that you are to abide by to come out with a specific result. Then you'll be able to play that exercise, and obviously if you play that in all 12 keys, you are going to grow musically. There is no arguments there. But the reality is, the things that Victor are teaching are conceptual. And this is the root of the problem for Jeff Berlin. He doesn't like conceptual. He doesn't like anything that is not musical content. He believes you can be either self-taught, you listen to records, and you learn the music, which him and Victor both do agree on, that all the good music that you want to learn, whether it be metal, hip-hop, whatever, it's all on those records. Okay, so you can be self-taught, and you can learn all these conceptual ideas being a self-taught player. When it comes to musical education, Jeff Berlin will not budge an inch. He believes musical content is the only way. Specific sets of rules are the only way. And I do actually agree with him. At the same time, I love Victor Wooten's lessons. I love that we can get away from what is right and being so specific, and we can open our minds and we can start thinking concepts like, how much better will our time be if we just think like a drummer? I mean, that's one sentence, and if you actually put that one sentence into practice, you will be a better bass player. He talks about tone, articulation, time, the use of space, all of these things that make up the players that we love. The players that we love, most of them would not be able to perform under the conditions that Jeff Berlin would want them to. Most of them are uneducated, a lot of them, especially in the rock and pop world. Now, Jeff continues to say that few understand that my reasons for alerting bassists to flawed instruction is that I believe that if I don't share what I see are ineffective lessons, these lessons will be practiced without regard to their learning inefficiencies. That's basically him saying that it's his duty as someone who knows what they're talking about to inform those of lesser knowledge. And I commend that. I respect that, and I love that he is a man of his convictions. He then goes on to say, I prefer not to hold back on references that never pertain to people but only to the educational methods they prescribe to that affect everyone. Now he's saying this isn't against Victor Wooten. He loves the man Victor Wooten. He thinks he's a great man. They've played together, okay? He's got nothing against Victor Wooten. He admires him as a player and as a man, but as an educator, he does not prescribe to the same methods that Victor Wooten does, and he feels it's his duty to let the community know that these teachings are ineffective. Recently, Jeff also criticized the following lesson that Victor Wooten made.
7, right. 7, right? So there's 7 right notes and only 5 so-called wrong notes. That means even if I guess, I'm going to hit a right note more than half the time.
In this lesson, Victor talks about always being a half step away from a right note as it pertains to the major scale. He says that next to every black key is a white key. So therefore, if you're in C major, if you ever hit a black key, which is technically a wrong note, then you're only half a step away, either up or down, to a right note. Now, Jeff had some criticisms in regards to this lesson, and he actually put up a post which improved the lesson academically, in my opinion. However, it missed the spirit of the lesson, which was to keep things as simple as possible, to make them childlike so that anyone could take this information and use it straight away. And that is the absolute bones of this lesson, is that let's keep this simple. Let's be childlike deliberately, so that we can have fun and not be thinking so much, and we can feel and enjoy music. And what learning this information from Victor taught me is to use your ears and find a note that you're looking for. And as you find it, make sure you always feel on the groove. And I believe it was Beethoven who said that to play a wrong note is excusable, but to play a note without passion is completely inexcusable. I think in a lot of ways Beethoven would identify with Victor Wooten's philosophies. However, I also believe that he would be practicing and learning using Jeff Berlin's pure musical content approach. But to wrap it up, I'll say that 2 polar opposites can contribute so much to your musical growth. If you don't know either of these bass players, you need to get to know both of them. There is so much you can learn from hearing them play and listening to them talk. But at the end of the day, I've got pictures of Jeff Berlin on my wall. I've got pictures of Victor Wooten on my wall. I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts about this. Put your comments in the section below. Peace.